Welcome to Staying Sweet, the podcast. Tune into my weekly podcast to hear me, Alice Bradley, delve deeper into building your brand and enjoying a luxury lifestyle. All while staying sweet, of course. Whether you're looking to level up in business, start something of your own, or balance a more exciting, fulfilling, and healthier lifestyle, each episode will be created especially to inspire and encourage your own success so you can really have it all. Plus, don't miss out on the Staying Sweet specials, a series of exclusive interviews and conversations with Alice Bradley's network of inspiring entrepreneurs and brand owners. Always protect your sweetness, your light is not a weakness. Don't forget, there are new episodes every Monday. For daily content, you can check out my Instagram and you can follow me at alicelucybradley. Stay sweet. Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Staying Sweet. I've got a lovely guest with me today. Say hello, Charlotte.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here.
If you guys don't know Charlotte already, introduce yourself. I feel like we've got some introductions to be done.
Right, so hi, I'm Charlotte Emily Price and I do social media. I'm full-time in social media at the moment and I talk about pretty much everything, mainly self-love, body acceptance, have a bit of fashion thrown in here and there. And yeah, just sort of share my life. Like, I'm quite an oversharer.
I love an overshare.
Talk about mental health as well. Periods, sex, literally a bit of everything.
I love that. I love that about your profile, actually. And I feel like that's what I was really drawn to with you. I felt like you were just an open book instantly. And I feel quite like that sometimes. And it's nice just to have other people who are open in that way and not kind of like judgy or like, why is she saying that? I feel like some people need to just say things, get it out in the open, and I feel like your profile does that really well. So yeah.
I do get worried because I think a lot of people think, why are you sharing that on the internet? I think a lot of maybe the older generation are kind of like that, like, why are you talking about that? Even like some of my friends are probably like, why do you talk about that online? I just feel like it's so important, isn't it? Like that there are people that are doing that to normalize things that other people are worried about or insecure about, you know.
Definitely. I think sometimes I check myself and think, am I allowed to post this?
Yeah.
But then I realise we are literally like setting the ground running. We're starting this new generation of people who are just open about how they are with their bodies and their experiences, their traumas, their highs and lows. And I feel like now is the best time to do that. So yeah, sometimes I have to tell myself, stop it, Alice.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So we're going to be chatting about kind of a topic that we've both been navigating. I don't know whether you've been navigating it lately, but imposter syndrome and that feeling of being good enough for an industry or where you work, standing in your own power and just becoming the best sort of version of yourself whilst also not being scared of other people's success. I feel like it's very easy to see imposter syndrome as just a you thing, but actually it's the people around you maybe impacting you without even realizing it. So we're going to be chatting about that today, aren't we? And opening up about it. But firstly, we want to start with some updates because that's what we do here. We like to keep you in the know, give you all the tea and the goss. What kind of things have you been up to lately that have been good for you?
What have I been up to? I feel like I've been getting into more mindful things because I found that I'm on social media too much because my job, I obviously have to be on it, so I can't really take breaks as such. You know, like some people actually like delete the
app. How do they do that?
I know.
I can't.
So I can't do that. So I'm trying to do more mindful things like switching off before I go to bed, like journaling more. Because usually I journal once a day, but maybe like upping that to twice a day, morning and night.
Nice, yeah.
Because I always used to be like, I don't have time for that, just a 10-minute like morning. But like you do have time for that. I'll just sit and scroll on TikTok, which is obviously not really beneficial for my mental health, really, before I go to bed, or even just my eyesight, or quite a lot of things,
everything.
really.
Oh my gosh, it's quite crazy how bad our eyes are getting. Well, mine are getting quite bad.
Yeah.
Just from the amount of hours I spend, and you're sitting there, you're editing, you're replying to comments, you're engaging, and you're talking to people, but you're still on your phone.
And even if I'm trying to get my screen time down on my phone, then I'm spending more time on my laptop editing. So it's like not really, it's counterproductive in a way. So yeah, journaling for me, or I'm trying to get back into scrapbooking because I used to love it so much. I feel like that's quite a nice like activity to do in the evening.
Is that with
really
like photos?
Yeah, photos.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Quotes, things like that. Just piecing memories from my phone, but physical. I like it a lot.
Do you use free prints?
Yes.
I love free prints.
That was just a perfect sponsor.
I know, that would be such a good sponsor. I'm bringing you on, guys, to free prints. No, this is not sponsored. I think the beauty of free prints really is just gathering everything that's happened in the month and looking back and actually being quite nostalgic. I'm a very nostalgic person. I don't know whether you are. But yeah, sentimental. So I feel like scrapbooking is a very like nostalgic thing to do, and it's crazy how much has happened in the last like few months, first few months of 2022, and it's been busy. It's booked and busy.
Yeah, I feel like you don't realise what you've done in that month until you like go on free prints.
Yeah, or even just scrolling through your camera roll. So like that was new to me because I used to have a Samsung phone, so I didn't see how many photos would accumulate. It would be all in folders. But when you have a camera roll, you're like, oh my god, like how many photos have I taken? Specifically of myself. That's a bit shallow, but oh dear. But yeah, I feel like there's been some really nice things happening lately. We actually caught up at the phenomenal event with George at Asda. It was my first George event actually.
I think mine too.
Yeah, really nice event, and there was a live podcast, so that was really nice to see, and just be around women who support each other, and it left me feeling really good actually, because we were both saying, weren't we, that we weren't really feeling great. Yeah, we were both having a really crappy day.
We were
not because we were having a bad day, it was just we didn't have like a great mental health day.
Yeah,
and it was weird that we were both acknowledging that, and I feel like because you said it and I said it, it was like, oh my god, we're both here, and we should be happy that we're here, but we're both feeling a bit down, and I just felt like we had that connection in that moment. It was really nice. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't even going to come because I was like really anxious before I came anyway, and then I was also on my period. Like my hormones were all over the place. Like
I was PMSing. So I feel like we were like on the same level of the vibes and the feels. But it does really affect you, doesn't it? And impact your day.
But I feel like that feminine energy from that event was just what I needed, to be honest, because I came back and I was like, wow, and I just sat and planned like the rest of my week, because it was on like a Tuesday, wasn't it? So I just felt really like, wow, like just really uplifted me. I think talking to loads of amazing women that were doing all these different great things like in different avenues, and it was just
motivational
what I needed that
and really lovely to have as an experience. I think events are one of the really great parts of being a blogger, creator, the networking, being with like-minded people, and it just kind of reminds you like, oh, I'm actually in this industry with other people, because it's quite lonely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel like with imposter syndrome, when you're at home doing your thing, doing your grind, like you can get really in your head, like, is this good enough? Am I working hard enough? That's something I dwell on all the time. Am I being productive enough?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But how do you sort of feel with productivity and sort of navigating that?
Yeah, I think I am someone who I feel like I thrive when I'm productive. Like I feel like that's what I need to get up and go. Like if I wallow too much, that'll make me feel worse. So I have to like get up and do something, even if it's something small that I've been putting off for ages. At least then I'm doing something, which I know obviously is not ideal in some senses, because you can go into that whole toxic positivity or productivity or whatever. But I think you just have to figure out what works for you, because resting for too long will actually make me more stressed out if I've got like a big to-do list or something. So getting small things off my to-do list make me feel better, and then it sort of gets me into a rhythm. But yeah, imposter syndrome I think is the worst with the whole productivity. I feel like a lot of people compare themselves on social media to other people's body types or faces, but for me, my social media like stress and worries don't come from that anymore. It comes from other people's success and how well they're doing.
Same. I can relate.
And that's where my imposter syndrome, like I think, hits more.
Things like having your fingers in lots of pies, and I think that's why I do spread myself really thin, because it's like, if I look like I'm doing all these things, I'm definitely successful, and actually, like, am I really being as productive as I could be if I just focused on one project or one thing? And I feel like social media sites like Instagram, I don't know whether you feel the same, but adding all these extra things that you have to do, like storying for like 10 stories, reels, showing up on live, showing up on TikTok now, like being present on all these platforms. They want us to spread ourselves thin in a sense. And I think that's quite toxic in itself, and just sort of analysing how social media platforms are making it increasingly difficult to be successful on a platform. Like TikTok now have stories. Tried it a few times, don't know how I'm going to feel. Maybe I'll get into the flow of that. But how do you feel about platforms kind of pushing that toxic productivity?
I think it's really hard, and I think more of that comes with people that aren't like in the social media industry going, oh, what if one of these app dies? What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
And then that's what makes me shit myself.
Yeah. We can swear.
Okay.
Swear away.
That's what makes me shit myself, because I'm like, oh, like I need to put more time into TikTok. I'm doing Instagram too much. Like, shit, let's go on there. And then YouTube, like, like, my mind is constantly racing, and I just need to chill out, I think.
And then you get yourself on like toxic productivity TikTok, which is my For You page basically. And it's like hustle culture, which it sounds bad that I get a kick out of it and a motivation, but I also have to step back and go, is this actually that healthy for me? And when you watch videos on like how to increase your engagement and how to be this and how to be that, it's like, I need to remember all these things. Like I literally save down about 100 TikToks a day of things that I need to do, like to better myself. But is that actually productive? I don't know. Will I refer back to those videos? Probably not.
Yeah,
like,
I do that as well. Like save, and then I don't even look back at them until like weeks later or something, when it's not relevant anymore. You know, it's so quick pace, fast paced, and I feel like I can't keep up.
Definitely. Do you feel that way with sort of Instagram trends and fashion as well? I feel like something off the top of my head, the mini Uggs thing. I don't know whether you got those,
I didn't,
but like how fleeting was that?
Yeah,
and now everyone's over it.
I know. It's sort of, I think, this is a random way to bring this into it, but I think grief recently has made me realise that like things like fleeting trends are really pointless, like, which is obviously not ideal, because I know that's part of like the fashion industry, like there are going to be trending moments, but I feel like grief for me has made me realise that materialistic things are like the least thing, like the least of my priorities. But I obviously still do like see joy in them, and like I like watching it, but I think it's made me like really refrain from like buying stuff.
Do you feel like you ever get FOMO with trends?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm like, oh, that
even
would
though
look
it's
so
not
good
part
with that.
of your vibe, like
I know it is very odd. I think it is just because we're constantly looking at our phones and seeing all this new stuff, fresh stuff every day. Yeah, I guess FOMO in that sense, probably.
And I think from a sort of production element, what I've noticed, and I didn't really see it until maybe like 2019, is that brands, in order to create a hype around a product, will give it out and divvy it out to 20 odd bloggers, and then go, right, you're all going to post on this day, you're going to hype this product out, and it's going to sell out. And then that's what kind of snowballs the trend and starts things kind of rolling. And I've noticed it with big brands do it, and it's very clever, because even as a creator, when you know that brand is doing that, it's quite toxic in the way that it kind of makes you feel like, okay, now I need to get involved. It's this, I'm not going to be good enough if I don't get on that hype and post that picture with that thing on, or that piece of clothing, when actually, like you say, it's materialistic, and am I really going to wear it in 2 months' time? Probably not. Yeah,
I think you really just have to think, I mean, I'm not the most sustainable person, you know, I'll be the first to say that, you know, because I feel like that's quite a lot of sometimes comments you get, obviously, if you buy into fast fashion brands. Yeah, but I do sort of get it if you, like the Uggs, for example, if you think you're going to wear them loads, fair play. Like, if you think that's going to be like a new thing in your wardrobe. I know I've bought things that I've only wore a few times and then been like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. You know, when a lot of like the colourful prints and things came in. I mean, I'm still going to wear them this summer, I'm not going to lie, I quite like a bit of colour. Or even like, you know, those patterned scarves, like the colourful scarves. I love that, and I bought that because I was like, I'm going to probably wear that every year. But yeah, I think it is hard to know whether you are going to wear stuff like a few months on in this fashion industry. It's quite difficult to know and what the best thing is to do for you and your audience, because at the end of the day, you're going to impact how they think as well, even if it is a small amount.
Definitely. I think as well, like for me, I found it really hard to navigate who I was, because I I had this fear of not being good enough around other creators necessarily, maybe even subconsciously not taking it in and realizing that I was doing things because everybody else was kind of going with the flow with that. But since I've stopped buying into accepting like gifting from brands, things like that, with products that I know aren't really wearable or just sort of like a one and done kind of product, I found it actually easier to be myself. And I've looked at my wardrobe lately and just gone, oh, this feels like me now. And it just feels a bit easier to kind of show up as myself when I'm not tapping into that need to be enough for other people. And it's almost like seeking validation in a way, like through clothing. It's very interesting.
That is a really interesting way to put it, but I'd say exactly the same. It is. It's all about validation, isn't it? I mean, I have this thing where I don't like ironing my clothes. Yeah. Because I'm like...
I can't be bothered.
Because I'm like, who am I doing that for? Other people? Yeah. Like, it's so weird. Like, why do we iron?
Yeah.
It's for other people to, like, not judge you or something. I don't know. It's very odd.
Yeah. That's a very interesting take on ironing. Do you know what? I need a steamer. I love the idea of a steamer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I use my steamer every now and again,
but it's not a regular thing. But you think about 50 odd years ago, everyone and their mother was not steaming away, but ironing away, and it was like a thing that you did. But now people barely do it. So that's another interesting.
My nan like irons her socks and her towels and stuff. Like that is bedding. I do not have time for that. I know she's retired, but like. Surely not. Like, fucking socks.
You've got so much time on your hands. I think I'll iron my socks today. But yeah, I think showing up as you, being honest about feeling a certain way about being productive, imposter syndrome. I feel like you're so honest on your stories that I don't know what it is. When I kind of tune into you, I feel like, oh, thank God. Somebody said it. Like, thank God for that. And I need to check myself because I know I don't do it enough. Sometimes I'm a little bit vulnerable, but it's that fear of, oh, I know somebody's watching me. Like, I still have people from school who don't follow me, just like view my content daily. And I would never block them because, like, what's the point? Like, there's a few people I've had to block, I'll be honest, but you kind of, you look at it and you go, oh, like, why are you looking like every single day, but you don't follow me?
Yeah, that is very odd behaviour.
It makes you think. And yeah, I think sometimes sharing your vulnerable side can be quite daunting, but I feel like you do it really well, and you've created a really safe community, I think, for people.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Like, because that's something I always think, like, am I showing what I'm really thinking and feeling right now? Because I think that is so important, and I've seen a few other people do it, but I think you just get so much false representation of people's lives, and
also sometimes like false. My life's not really great. Like, I feel like you can see when it's staged.
Yeah,
is that bad to say?
No, I think that's so true as well. I think people also do it now for clout because they know that it's also great to like be real, but then it's not real. I know exactly what you mean. I feel like you can just tell from the way someone
you kind of view it and you're like, are they really having a bad day? Like, okay. Cool. And not to like not validate it, but yeah, just for sometimes it just doesn't come across sincere or just like, yeah, it can be hard. But I feel like when I check in on your content, I'm like, oh, it's really nice. And maybe that's because it's coming up like all the time now on my like stories. But how do you find you consume content? Like, are you consuming now to find other people sharing that kind of content, or do you prefer more like streamlined, aesthetic, positive, all the time content? Like, what do you consume?
I think I had like the biggest clear out in lockdown. Like, I unfollowed so many people that were making me feel shit, like whether that was people I knew in real life. Like, I mean, I always say, everyone's a bit like, oh, that's a bit harsh, but like you can unfollow your family and friends, like if you really don't want to, or use the mute button. Like, it's not actually that deep. Like, if that's affecting you, you're the most important person at the end of the day. So the mute button is your best friend.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
And then you can just create your perfect feed, because you have the power to, like, obviously not fully because of advertising and all this data stuff, but you have the power to curate that perfect feed and what you want to see and what you want to consume. So if you want people that are just your body type, for example, you can do that. You can just follow people who have similar body types to you. You don't have to see anyone with a different one that makes you feel worse or whatever about yourself, you know.
Were there any, like, obviously not naming names, but were there any particular types of account that were particularly triggering or made you feel like you weren't being productive enough? Like what things were just making you feel uncomfortable?
I think I've had like previous friends maybe, or people who had like weight loss accounts and things like that. So I just obviously unfollowed those because they were like very toxic, I think, for me. Obviously they could be losing weight fine and like easy, but they had like a different body type to me probably, and that's probably why I unfollowed. Probably people who are fake, like people who I might have met in real life that are coming across like fake, not... Because obviously I get that you can have like an aesthetic feed, like you just want to post pretty photos and bring people joy rather than like value in a different way where it's like showing realistic stuff. Like I do get that side of things too, because I do follow those accounts. But you know, when people are actually like fake and you just can't...
You get the vibes in person.
Yeah, you get the vibes in person. You just can't take it anymore.
That's the worst, isn't it? When you meet someone that you really like. I've had a few, and it's just been like, really? Oh, that's really gutting.
That's so
because that's when you then view their content and you can't really enjoy it anymore. Yeah, because you're like, oh god, I actually know what you're like. Oh, that's lovely. But yeah, I think there's no harm in the honesty of just going, you know what, this isn't for me. I can't show up and engage with your content because it doesn't feel at a value to me. And God forbid if somebody did that. I understand if you do it with my content, but I don't know. Like it's hard to know when you want to be vulnerable, but you're also kind of on that weird cusp of is it okay to share that? Should I share that? There's parts of my life that I haven't ever divulged, and I want to one day, but it's like, do I or don't I? And
because I also do value privacy as well. I know people are private. Like my boyfriend, for example, he'll probably will never be on a YouTube video or anything properly. Like he'll be in the background maybe here and there, but like he's just like no social media, like prefers private life. And obviously I'm the opposite, so it's kind of a bit odd. So yeah, I think there's probably like a few things that I maybe haven't shared, and I don't expect everyone else to share. I just don't like it. It's more like lying rather than... I know you can like make things out to be better than they are and just show your highlights, which I get because that was the point of Instagram, I guess, in the first place.
That's like not law of assumption, but it's kind of like based on assumption. It's oh, this and this means they have this life. Like you've made that assumption. But yeah, I think if people are hiding things in a certain way to make it look like I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, so I can't reel off an example. But it is common, and people do it, and kind of people can pull the wool over your eyes a little bit and make you think that their life's a certain way. And
I had a little light bulb moment. I saw someone the other day put in about like attention seeking, crying on your Instagram story, and I thought that was interesting because obviously I've recently like shared quite a lot of like really vulnerable, like emotional things, and I do get. Like I do find some of them TikToks funny, you know, where it's like influencers crying and it's like, one sec, get my camera. Like I sort of get it, it's funny. But I have tried to like tune into moments where I'm not feeling my best to try and film those just to prove that that also happens in my life as well, because I feel like that is relatable. Because obviously everyone just uploads when they're happy or they're having like a really cool day at the beach with their family or going to see their friends for brunch or whatever, and you just see that side of things. So I really try and show both sides, but I know some people see it as attention seeking. So I mean, you can't really win.
It's interesting actually, because I won't divulge into specifics, but I went through quite a severe trauma at sort of end of 2019. And around that time, I don't know why, and I wasn't vlogging, I wasn't doing any of that stuff, but instinctively I wanted to film myself in those like horrible, raw, sad moments. And it was a lot of videos of me crying. I've never shared them before, but I look back at that version of myself and I think, oh my God, I can't believe you were ever in that level of distress. But you can kind of just see your own growth sometimes, like, and sometimes it's not even for the validation of others and being attention seeking, but it's actually like, I have felt this exact way too. And sometimes standing together is stronger. And I don't know whether I'll ever share those videos. Like, I'm an ugly crier. Like,
me too.
Worse than Kim K. Like, worse than Kim K.
Yeah, I'm really ugly.
I am really ugly crier. But just having those videos, like, they're stored away. They're not like accessible. And I don't want to like trigger myself and accidentally like find it on my phone. But that time in my life, I'm a bit weary of that part of my camera roll, and I don't like to look around that sort of time because it's a weird situation. But yeah, I feel like just having those moments documented, I'm kind of glad I did it in a weird way. Like it's a bit odd, but yeah.
It's like a diary, I guess, of just how you are. And I think you can go back to that maybe when you're feeling in like a more stable way to look at it or whatever, and you can see those moments and think, wow, I've come so far. I think that's such a great moment. But I mean, it confuses me about my personality, like why I would share that. Like sometimes I sit and think, like, why am I actually sharing that? Like, am I okay? Like, 'cause not a lot of people would do that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I filmed a breakdown in uni, like an actual breakdown. Yeah. I can't watch it now, like you said. I can't look back at it. You can't like look
back at it, really, can
but
you?
I uploaded it, and I'm like, what? Why did I do that? Like, I was literally like sitting having a breakdown. I was like the most depressed I've ever felt in my life. Like before I went on like proper antidepressants. And I was like, why did I upload that to the internet? Like, I actually really do use it as a diary. I don't think anyone sees it, but they do.
They must do. And there's people that I don't really know how YouTube views accumulate, but I don't have tons of views, but I think to myself, there must be people not logged in that are just viewing my content, because doesn't it just track that way? Yeah. I think. You can view it and not be logged in. Yeah. And it doesn't count as a view, I think.
Oh, I honestly don't know.
I think. I'm not sure. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, guys. Please don't. I don't know enough about like YouTube analytics. I just show up and post, okay? But yeah, I think for me, growing up in a household where my parents probably said, oh, maybe not share that, because you don't know who's looking. And that's for all sorts of things, like people that might not like me, people that do like me or are friends with me but don't want me to win. I've had a lot of that, which is quite hard to comprehend and deal with, because it's like, wow, like they're my friend and yet they still don't want me to succeed. And then you've obviously got people who are just like blatant haters or potential employers, like all these potential people that could be viewing, like sometimes I see TikToks and I'm like, I can't believe someone shared that, but then I want to share things that are equally as crazy and vulnerable. So it's like, where's the line? Like, is there anything that you'd never speak about? I feel like that's quite a tough question, but
I feel like there's not really anything specifically that I can think of. Like, there are moments that are like I have never spoken about that are quite like traumatic, but I can see myself talking about it in the future, to be honest. Like, if the right moment comes, or if something like happens that makes me feel like I need or want to talk about it with people. I don't know. I don't think that's a good thing though at the same time, because I feel like you obviously should have stuff that's private as such, but you just have in your real life away from social media to like set a boundary, because I'm really shit at that.
Yeah, I'm so bad at that. I just go in, like when I go and say something, I'm like, I don't know who I could be helping. Yeah. But then it's like, hang on a minute, is it actually going to help someone? But then is that imposter syndrome. It's that imposter syndrome at the end of the day. Like, I think that's really what we want to talk about and what we want to navigate. So we're going to dive into the specifics of imposter syndrome, give you some tips, some advice, and some journal prompts as well. So I've just kind of realised that we have not done our affirmation or our quote of the week, and I feel like that would be a really good starting point for what we're about to talk about, something for you to think about and maybe write down or jot down on your phone notes. Do you use your phone notes? I use my phone notes for everything.
Me too.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, mine this week is, I am worthy of good things happening to me, because everybody is worthy of success and, you know, happy moments to smile past all sorts of things. You know, you might be going through something like grief or a breakup, but you're still allowed to smile. You're still allowed to enjoy elements of life. Like, in some ways life does go on, and it's about just showing up and being grateful for the good moments and feeling like you are worthy of those good moments. And what's your one, Charlotte?
So mine is, my opinion holds weight and has value to others. I feel like recent situations I have held back, like saying how I feel or what I think, and something that could maybe hold value in a situation, for example in work especially. Like, it's the imposter syndrome, I think mainly comes in my work more than anything else. Like, I feel like I'm not as qualified to speak about something as someone else, or you know, it doesn't hold value because I'm talking to like the manager of a business. Like, why would they listen or want to listen to me? Like, I know nothing, and I'm still so young or whatever. So yeah, I think I just need to remember that my opinion does hold weight, and I can say it. It depends how they want to take it, you know. I feel like I just need to speak up more.
And did you find that difference going full time? as a
Yeah.
blogger.
Yeah. 100%.
In like how you show up as yourself and being your own boss in a sense, because you're only going to get the jobs that you go for, and obviously people are going to reach out to you, but also you've got to know your worth and your value and go, actually this is what I want from XYZ. I feel like with social media and influencing, there's so much that goes into it behind the scenes that people don't see, and proving yourself almost, like not fighting against other creators, because everyone's got their place and their power, but showing that, you know, this is what I can create, this is what I can do. I feel like we're constantly on that push to,
it's pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, push to be the best option, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's quite a good quote for you to share, and definitely true. I think you have to believe that your opinion holds weight. That's really nice. I love that. So we're going to be talking about specifically how to navigate imposter syndrome. I wanted to give a quick definition. I just Googled it now, guys, because I thought best to give the official definition before we proceed. So imposter syndrome is loosely defined as doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud. It disproportionately affects high achieving people. I mean, doesn't that just sum us up? Who find it difficult to accept their accomplishments. Many question whether they're deserving of their accolades. I feel like that is so spot on.
What a lovely definition.
Lovely definition.
I think some of this comes with being a woman, you know?
Interesting.
Because I've listened to, I think, Stephen Bartlett, you've listened to him. He was talking about this, how he feels like he can be so open about his career and his achievements and doing well and sharing his success, and then he's had women like who he's spoken to that have done the same thing, and all of the comments are like just slating her, saying, oh, she thinks she's better than everyone else, like what, like she's too big for her boots, rah, rah. So yeah, I think it's something to do with women and people thinking that boasting is a bad thing, when it's not even boasting, it's just sharing your achievements, you know, like sharing the good things.
I would have to agree as well in saying that I've sometimes consumed content maybe from him, or watched business podcasts or videos, that type of thing, and looked at the woman and without even realizing it, subconsciously judged that person. 100%. Even if I'm watching it to motivate myself, I've gone, oh, don't really like that comment. Or even like how women were sort of tearing Molly May down. I know she's said a vast array of things, but just in what she's been saying, there are men that have said the same or potentially worse, and their podcasts don't get ripped to shreds. And
I mean, he agreed with Molly May's 24 hours a day comment.
I know, didn't he wear a t-shirt at her show? I feel like he wore a t-shirt.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he did. But a man could say that and effectively get away with it. So it's very interesting how we put women on a different pedestal, and the judgments and the things that we look at to scorn someone is very different. And I feel like it's good that you brought that up, because that opens up a whole other element to imposter syndrome. And I think it's kind of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, because being your own boss and being a nice person should come hand in hand. And I have seen it, unfortunately, in the industry and across the industry, that women are kind of put on this I don't know, like this need to be maybe more harsh or bitchy or tear another person down to get ahead or to be successful. And I think sometimes when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it's almost like a last resort action, kind of push sometimes to do that. And I've noticed it more in women than men. We find it easier to be bitter and to kind of say, oh, well, I'm going to judge that part of that person and what they're wearing. It's always based on appearances and things like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'm guilty of judging other women as well, and I think I just have to rein it in. And I think I really have to think about why I'm feeling or thinking the way I do, and it's usually because of outward sources that like, you know, just misogyny as a whole. And I think that might be maybe one of the reasons why we feel imposter syndrome subconsciously, because we see that when other women succeed or share their success, they're sort of thrown down. I mean, all of my I've spoken to some of my friends about this, all of my posts where I'm crying or upset do better than when I'm succeeding or I've posted like an announcement.
That is crazy.
And
so what does that tell you? Because that could tell you two things. We're all feeling the same in that sort of crappy moment, or, oh, that feels quite nice that this person's slightly, you know, on the more vulnerable side, not doing as great. Cool, that's kind of boosted my ego, brought me up a peg.
Yeah.
So how do you know, I don't know, how do you measure that? How do you know that people are liking and commenting because they're like, oh, thank you for sharing that, versus great, I'm doing better than her in their eyes? Because I think when you do show up and share that vulnerability, you're like, oh, that's risky. You're taking a risk in being honest.
Yeah, I think the way you put it is really good, actually, like talking about how they would feel. They would get like an ego boost or a motivation boost if someone else is feeling shit online.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're seeing someone else do well online, you're beating yourself up about it. And I mean, I do the same thing. So that's probably why the vulnerable poster, whatever,
are feeling that sort of way. And I'm sharing in my previous podcast about problems in the first month of the year with my photography business. I had to preface it with saying, I feel okay to talk about it now. I feel confident enough to talk about it now. So if anybody is listening to this wanting to get a kick out of me feeling low vibe, like I almost wanted to call it out before any feelings were exchanged. And I feel like it is an energy thing and a frequency thing. It's like people do get a sick high from other people's failures. And I did see it from, I mean, I'm going to be honest and say other bloggers with other bloggers. And it's so sad when, you know, you go into an industry thinking, okay, everyone loves each other, but then you actually kind of hear the goss and the tea and you're like, oh, I went to this event and this person hates this person and this person doesn't like this content, but I know secretly they're saving all their content and trying to recreate it. And you're just like, how do you even navigate that? How have you specifically navigated that?
I think I really just have to take myself, because I used to think, right, save what you, I still do obviously save stuff that I want to recreate or take my own spin on. But I think most of the time I really have to just like go away from socials, get my little planner out and write what I think, what I truly want to create and what I want to post out there and hopefully hold value in whatever sense that is. If that's a nice like fashion-y pic that might give inspiration, or if that's something that is a bit more deeper like body acceptance and self-love. And I think I just have to go back to my roots, like what do I actually want to post, rather than comparing what other people's success and thinking, oh, they're doing this at the moment, so I should probably do that to be successful, when it's not the case. I think that's something that I really struggle to comprehend, like even now. And I really have to just, I think, go off socials and go back to my roots and like what I truly believe that I want to post out there and what I want in life from it, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so on sort of like a more sort of social media level, what is your favourite content to create? Because I feel like we have so much pressure to show up on specific platforms because that's how we grow, like Reels. Like I've got into Reels, but initially I couldn't give a shit. I was not interested. I don't really consume Reels. Like occasionally I'll flick through the little Reels page, get bored after 2 or 3 scrolls. TikTok on the other hand is very addictive, but I'm not on it in the same way with Reels. So I feel like, am I creating content like that just because I have to? Like what's your favourite content to create?
I used to be like beauty and fashion, like back in the day when I just had my blog, and I feel like then that transitioned to fashion and then more lifestyle. And when I was at university I did a lot of I daily vlogged my uni life. It was like, it's quite crazy to look back on, but
that's so lovely. I kind of wish I'd done that actually. I know, just for the memories. And
it's like, it's pretty cool because then I can see literally like days where I'm like having the best time and then the next day I'm like literally crying my eyes out, like in the library or whatever, like
oh god, the library sessions.
Do you know what I mean? So it then transitioned to lifestyle, and then now I sort of do a bit of everything with more of a focus on that self-love. And I don't know, I just really feel like my calling is to like post things that will hold value, or I don't know know if that actually is the case, but that's what my goal is with my page. And so yeah, for social media content that I love to create, I think it is something like the self-love, body acceptance, which isn't always I can't like just chuck that out, you know, like fashion content you can like bulk shoot outfits and get them out, but with self-love it doesn't come
That's so interesting.
You know,
you say that.
you can't bulk shoot that content.
Bulk shoot that, no, not at all.
No, it just comes when it comes. And I write stuff in my notes all the time. Like if I'm in the shower and I'm like, oh, like I think back to a time where I felt shit about myself, or something like a quote or something that I think of, I write in my notes straight away, and then I'll come back to that in a caption, or it'll inspire like a reel or something like that. So yeah, it's I feel like my social media content has been like a massive journey in its transition. So I think at the moment it's self-love, but I can't just make that happen. It just has to come naturally,
which has to be organic, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think you have to still, in the same instance, reel people in with something to view and see. So obviously sharing an outfit and then relaying it to something, an experience. I feel like blogging into Instagram was the real like mesh of the two. And I feel like we used to put all that stuff in a blog post, and I do kind of miss those days, but I feel like those days are kind of over now, and people aren't really consuming blogs in the same way. It might have its heyday again, might get a bit of a resurgence, but I feel like we're on this scary kind of everything has to be shorter and quicker and give it to me now. Like I'm getting bored with minute videos. If somebody's sharing stories and okay, they've got the automatic captions, but if I can't get the context, I swipe off or I click through. Like we're literally getting bored of 15 seconds of content, and it's just it is crazy. And I think there's something higher going on in the world that's making us need to consume this content and absorb things so fast. Everything is so fleeting, but obviously when you're sharing something like mindfulness or self-love, that's a big heavy topic. Like that's not going to be a one sentence caption. That's a lot to kind of dive into very quickly. So yeah, I feel like it's quite interesting how you say that's the content that you love to produce the most. And yeah, I think everyone is different. If we all just produced what we wanted to, social media would be a very different landscape right now. But there is so much pressure because it is a job in a sense for us, and if we don't play by the rules, sometimes we get penalised for it. So it's hard, isn't it?
It really is. I think going full time as well, like I'm like, oh, I need to jump on reels. I actually really like editing them, like more than filming them, which is kind of weird.
What do you edit on?
Video I think it's called. Just on my phone. I use that a lot for like split screens and things like that. I just find it fun because it's like a new form of, I'm just like sort of learning a new skill. So yeah, I really enjoy that. But I know obviously my fashion content isn't as well liked, but I love creating that stuff, so I'm going to continue to do it. I think we all have little blips here and there when the algorithm changes and we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? But I just have to really think, oh, I'm still on reels. That's what's going well at the minute. I'll just do whatever my take on what I like with reels, you know?
So we've kind of been chatting away and having a little discussion about what we'd write in our journals, what we'd kind of dive into in order to uncover not our faults with imposter syndrome, but just where it's coming from, where it's stemming from. It's a bit like a therapy session, guys, you're getting from us. So we're going to share a few prompts with you. So if you want to whip out your journals or your diaries, or maybe you're writing this on your phone notes, some people really do like to use their phone as a diary, and I think that's quite a nice thing to do. First one that I wanted to say, it's kind of more negative, but I think sometimes you have to get to the actual crux of the problem. What content makes me not feel worthy, or like what makes me a little bit triggered? Am I seeing, friendship groups? Am I seeing engagements? Am I seeing people traveling around? What's actually happening for other people that's making me feel low vibrational and like I'm not good enough? And just seeing where that stems from, kind of in the same realm of like themes. So what's causing the imposter syndrome, because you might find there's like multiple things, but they're all sitting under one umbrella, and then you can actually see, okay, I need to do some work on that. Like, have I lost friendships? Have I gone through a breakup? Is it really hard to see people loved up when I'm, crying over an ex or something? Things like that. And why does this person, or it might be a creator, it might be a friend that you're consuming their content, what makes me feel envious or jealous or not worthy enough? specifically, and why does this person make me feel that way? Yeah.
I think getting this stuff down on paper as well really can highlight like the problem, and I think that for me is what helps me able to overcome something like that, something that's really like niggling at the back of my brain.
Definitely. I think sometimes when you free write as well, it just like all comes out and you're like, where did this come from? Is that I like to write poetry and like things will just kind of flow. Like sometimes it rhymes, guys. Yeah, it's a bit cringy. But I'm like, wow, that came from somewhere. And it makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to talk about it just quickly because it makes me cringe, but I'm glad I have it. I wrote a poem when I was about 14 about a guy and I kind of half finished it. And then when I was at uni, I ended up dating a guy who was like this poem.
Oh my God.
And I was able to finish it because we were in like a situationship for like over a year. It was crazy. And I wrote this whole poem, and there was a competition for an anthology at my university, and I submitted it, didn't think anything of it. And I won it. So
That's incredible.
I ended up in this anthology, and it just made me think like, okay, I put it down on paper, but it actually like led me to something later on in my life. And sometimes like having something written down, it seems really silly and cringy at the time, but you've put your emotions somewhere. You've got it out of your body.
Yeah, you've
offloaded
offloading
it.
all of this crazy chaos that can happen in your mind sometimes. Like when my mind's really foggy, if I just write down everything that's stressing me out, even like a to-do list, do you know what I mean?
I love a to-do list.
You just whack it out and then it's like, oh, these are all the things that are in my head and why I was feeling so pent up, you know? It's nice to just get them onto paper away from your brain.
Yeah, and then you can almost forget about it because you know you've dumped it somewhere, which is what I quite like to do with like bad things that happen, or even like good things that are wrapped in like maybe loads of drama. I've had it with like writing about guys, like, oh God. But just being honest to the diary is just like, oh, okay, it's here. I've dumped it somewhere and I can refer back to it later if I need to. But that's really good. Are there any others that you advise on?
So I would say maybe to like finish or like end with some strengths, like 3 things that you love about your like personality that can conquer that imposter syndrome. So for me, if I'm worried about success or other people's success and not feeling like I fit into the industry, I'd like to say that I'm hardworking and driven, and that's why I feel like that, because I want to do well and I want to succeed in my life. So yeah, pinpointing those strengths to combat those negative thoughts.
I really like that. And I think sometimes our traumas or things that happen to us maybe even make us feel crappy or make us sort of look at other people and what other people are doing in their lives. Those things can actually be our purpose and kind of what we're meant to talk about and share.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about like reworking the trauma and using it in a positive way. And I feel like that journal prompt you've just said is really positive and takes a positive action on maybe a negative feeling. So that's really nice. Love that. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming on the podcast. You've been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I am definitely getting her back on.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I wish I could speak for hours.
I know. We definitely
could.
Like we definitely could. And I feel like we will be back very soon with another podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Staying Sweet, the podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please do leave a review, and I will catch you next week for a new episode. Stay sweet.